Michele Bachmann is with us. Congressman Bachmann, how are you?
Hey, I am doing great, and I thank you for giving that introduction. I really do, because we've known each other for many, many years, and I think there's very few people, and you know this, I've said this to you privately and publicly, that I have more respect for than you, for your audience and for the work that we've done together, and I have no doubt that that's going to stay that way in the future.
Okay, I do too, and let's just get something clear, because we're about to be the battle of the Titans. But let's just get something. Okay. Let's get something straight. You know I love you. You know that we'll be friends forever. You know that we can disagree vehemently on this, but that doesn't mean that I think that you are an enemy. I don't think that you're an enemy of the Republic or anything like that. I think you are so focused, and rightly so focused on the threats that you see, and I don't, because you're on the Intel Committee, that are a direct and present, clear and present threat to the United States. I just happen to disagree with the NSA. So let's just take it from there. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Okay.
We could disagree without being disagreeable. Would you put it that way, Glenn?
Such a jerk.
Sounds like it has a good beat and it's easy to dance.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Michele, you sent me, or somebody sent me, some testimony between you and the head of the NSA and the associate or assistant director of the FBI. Do you want to characterize this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I sent you some testimony. There's a public hearing. Most of our hearings are not public in the Intelligence Committee for obvious reasons, but we had a public committee hearing with General Keith Alexander, who is the head of the NSA, and I had gone through a series of questions for him because I wanted to make a record, because the story that had gone out from Ed Snowden and his revelations were that he was suggesting that the NSA was listening in on people's phone calls and listening and also recording them and keeping the content of U.S. phone conversations in a database. The other suggestion is that the NSA was also reading and keeping on file the emails between U.S. persons as well. And I wanted to know if, in fact, that was true. And so I asked point blank those questions of General Keith Alexander, and we made that record.
Okay, so I want to ask you, what happened to my good friend Michele here? Because Ben Bernanke has also been asked if he would ever print money, and they're printing it, they're digitizing it. The NSA has been on record.
I was there that day.
I know.
I was there that day with Ben Bernanke because I sit on that committee because he was asked, do you print money? And his answer was not literally.
Right.
And that was really an insult, to be honest with you. That was an insult.
So tell me, Michele, why you're believing the NSA when they have lied over and over and over in the first place? Why would we believe them? And what is the NSA data center collecting if it's not collecting information? I'm not suggesting that they're reading emails. I'm not suggesting that they're listening to every phone call. What they are doing is collecting all of those and storing them.
Well, all I can do is tell you, based upon my work, I take this extremely seriously. This is where I devote a minimum of 40 hours a week specifically to the Intelligence Committee. I'm very active. I read. I ask the questions. I've been on the phone this weekend again with General Alexander in light of some of the comments that were made by Mr. Greenwald to Mr. Stephanopoulos. I want to know the truth. That's where you and I have absolute common cause. We both want to get to the bottom line truth. And what I am seeing from everything that has come out so far is we don't have an instance and we don't have any evidence. If we have evidence to the contrary, I would tell you. But I have found no instance or evidence that the United States government is recording and listening to phone calls or reading or keeping on file emails of U.S. persons.
Did you know before?
They are of targeted foreign intelligence targets. That's what we want them to do. That's acceptable. There is no expectation of constitutional protections for foreign persons. We want them to do that. We do not want them, and in fact it's proscribed. In other words, it's prohibited by law for for them to do that for U.S. persons unless there's probable cause and a federal court order. You have to have both probable cause and a federal court order before you can listen to or have any U.S. communication.
So I don't know what I can ask you and you can answer because, I mean, you just have to tell me. I don't want anybody to think that Michele is going to avoid a question when she says, I can't answer something, because she is on the Intelligence Committee, and so she is briefed, and quite honestly, it's a giant trap. Even if she comments on something that is in public knowledge and been publicly recognized, some things she can't comment on. So I don't want anybody to think that that she's being evasive here. And I say that because I'm going to ask you some questions. Are you telling me that when the Washington Post came out, what was it, just last week or the week before, and they said the secret FISA court is doing Supreme Court style decisions? This is not some right wing, Rand Paul conspiracy think tank, if you want to throw it into that. This is the Washington Post. Are you saying you knew about that and you didn't have a problem with it, or did you know about it?
Okay,
Can you answer the question?
What you're saying from the Washington Post is that the FISA court is doing Supreme Court style
decisions. Did you see that story? Did you see?
I don't think I'm familiar with that. With the FISA court.
Here is
every 90 days they issue an order regarding the telephone records, whether or not that process can continue.
The story came out. The story came out on June 23rd from the Washington Post. The FISA court is underneath the visitors center at the Capitol, and they are. And this is a quote. They are developing a body of law separate from the one on the books. End quote. Washington Post, June 23rd.
I don't know, and that I promise you I will look at. I promise you I will look at that and will report back whatever I'm able to report back. If this is something that has to be on the books. This can't be separate and distinct.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Michele, and I don't mean to.
If that is true, I will find out.
Okay. Well, you also have the Washington Times on July 16th, personal track record of politicians, donors improperly accessed at the IRS. I mean, I bring up the IRS. I know that's different than the NSA, but I bring up the IRS because we have been lied to over and over again, and I don't understand, and I do understand what you're saying about security. You know that there are threats that are real, and so do I. You know much more than I do, and I accept that. However, I am not willing to surrender my personal liberty for security. You cannot have a risk-free world. And I'm not even worried about this president, and you know how worried I am about this president. What comes after him? We cannot build this. You have the guy who started the Patriot Act coming out and saying, well, I can't even support this now. I mean, why do you have this optimism that they're not going to lie to you?
You and I have no disagreement on that. I think we no longer recognize the country that we live in. The America that we grew up in was relatively peaceful. This is a very different age that we're living in my opinion. We are living in an age of lawlessness, and that goes across both parties. I'm not saying it's attributable to one party.
Yeah, I was going to say lawlessness, lawlessness in the government.
You and I are in agreement on that. When it comes to the IRS, when it comes to Homeland Security, when it comes to even other programs within the intelligence community, I am very concerned about various civil liberty concerns. The one program that I am not concerned about, based upon the study that I have done, has been this Section 215 business records exception. This program doesn't have one instance of abuse. And I think that the problem has been this program has been conflated with other scandals that are out there.
Okay, hold on.
And based on everything I've seen so far, this program that I'm looking at is not our problem. The federal data hub is going to be the mother of all problems. That's where we really need to pay attention.
But who is the one that is? Where does the federal data hub? Who's responsible for that? What agency?
Well, the federal data hub obviously is going to be what will monitor Obamacare, but it will go beyond the IRS. And I think no one really knows the answer on it yet because it's so huge. Because, Glenn, it's going to take in all of our employment records, which will be our income history. It will have to include family relationships. It will have to involve locations of where we've worked, where we've lived. It'll have all of our private, personal health data.
What I'm trying to say, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just don't want to run out of time with you. So when it comes down to it, Michele, you and I both know they're going to say, well, we have to store it someplace. Where are we going to store it? Who is the only agency that has the storage, and why do they have so much storage at this new storage facility? I'm in Salt Lake City today, just down the street, right here, just down the street, the biggest data storage facility the world has ever seen. If they're getting rid of all of the data, what is it they're storing there?
Well, the National Data Center in Utah is a new facility. You're right. It's a very large facility that is used for foreign intelligence gathering. One of the reasons why it was chosen in Utah is because it was cheaper to get power there, cheaper to have the storage there, cheaper than Washington, D.C., and also it doesn't have the high value for the potential attack that it could have in Washington, D.C. So there were strategic reasons, cost reasons why it was located there.
Hang on just a second.
The deal with foreign intelligence gathering.
The NSA.
Pardon?
The NSA.
And
2 weeks ago.
Can I add one more thing about what it does?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is we spent a year in intelligence committees studying cyber threats because we all know this has become a completely different world that we live in. Because everything is on a grid now. Everything is digital. That's kind of the focus of our conversation. But China has been a negative actor. They probably hold the premier crown of cyber espionage. We've lost billions and billions of dollars out of the United States to the Chinese. And so that is one thing that we're trying to do is protect the American people and protect American companies from the espionage that is occurring from the Chinese. That's part of the data of the task at that center. Okay,
let me just take it in reverse here on some of the things that you've just said. First of all, China is a huge threat. You know that. I know that. Everybody on the planet knows that, except this administration and its cronies in the spy agencies. When he said there's no reason that we're even spying on China anymore or looking into them because they pose no threat to us whatsoever. That's one of the first things he did. Second of all,
who said that? Who said that?
The President of the United States.
That's crazy.
I know. Hello.
That's crazy.
Hello. Yes, Michele. That's why I'm saying I don't know why you're believing this. Second thing, you're saying that our real threat comes from digital. We're all digital. Yes, and that came from the Bush administration. We've digitized even all of our radio and television signals. You can't have an analog television signal anymore. And the federal government is the one that pushed that through, not the private market. And the third thing that you said is that they moved here because they can get energy cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. Look up the comments from the NSA chief in the Salt Lake City News maybe 3 weeks ago. It was reported that he said that one of the reasons why they selected Utah was because of the plentiful water. This is a desert. And he's saying that they had such cheap and plentiful water here to be able to keep the thing cool. This is a desert. And anybody with a brain cell knows this is a desert and there is no plentiful water here. I'm sorry, it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. And I don't know what it adds up to. It might be fine today, but
I can ask a question about the water. What I'm trying to say is that I've been trying to use my best efforts ever since the Snowden the Snowden report came out, I've been trying to discern through my best efforts what's truth. That's what you do. That's what I do.
Right.
Try to figure out what the truth is. And all I can do is I can't go along with I have to go with where the truth is taking me, just like you do. And based upon everything I've seen so far that I have discovered, I haven't found the problems in that program that have been reported. In other words, I haven't found out that what Snowden is saying is true.
Okay.
And I can't go there until I find that out.
So could I just ask you one
programs? I don't lump them all together. I'm trying to be discerning on this.
So could I just ask one more thing? To say that there are a bunch of false narratives, you sounded, quite honestly, like you were attacking people like me who do not trust the federal government to tell us the truth and are snooping on us, whether it's through this specific program or another. You know it and I know it, and if they're not doing it now, they will be doing it if you continue to give them this kind of power. And I was offended that you would say it's a false narrative, because it's not. It's not a false narrative to not trust your government and to think that they are a fire burning out of control.
Well, number one, I was not referring to you. And
no,
number two, I do believe that again, I have to go with where the evidence leads. And trust me, I put a lot of time into this to figure out what is true and what isn't. And at this point, it is a false narrative based upon everything I've seen. When Snowden or whoever or Greenwald has made the statement that the federal government is listening to U.S. citizens' phone calls and recording them.
I don't know
and
that he said that so much as they're storing.
Yeah, they're not.
Didn't he say that they were
reading U.S. emails and keeping them?
They're
that
storing
is a false
all of those.
narrative. In my opinion, that is a false narrative based upon everything that I've been able to see. There isn't any evidence yet that gets me there.
Okay. Michelle never said that. Never said they're listening to it. They're storing them. Mm-hmm. They're storing them. And that's a difference.
The content?
They're storing the content.
Yeah.
They're storing the content.
That I have zero evidence of that. I have gone to the highest places. I haven't seen any evidence of U.S. recordings being stored.
Okay.
Now,
Michelle,
the difference would be on foreign collection.
Okay.
There's a difference between foreign collection and U.S., but there's nothing that indicates U.S.
Okay. Michele Bachmann, I've got to run because I have a network break. We're going to skip the commercial here. I'll make it up tomorrow. Michelle, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And we go away friends. We still disagree, but we go away friends. And I appreciate your integrity to be able to come on the program and face the heat.